I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
This is Rob Long with Martini Shot for The Ankler. Two writers I know went out with a great pitch recently, and I know it was great because I heard it. Writers do that for each other every now and then. So when they asked if I was happy to get on a Zoom call and hear their great idea for a comedy series, of course I said yes, and it was really great. Now, I did have a few, suggestions, but not because they needed them, but because if the series goes, I want them to feel like they owe me a little bit. That's what friends are for. Now, the first place they went to pitch the idea responded by saying some very classic we're passing language. We love the material. We love the auspices. We're just not engaging in this area right now. But then they added something that honestly, I kind of anticipated, but I didn't share that with my friends because it wasn't something they could really fix anyway. And my rule is I will never, ever give you a suggestion that you can't actually implement. The story and the arena, said one of the non-buyers, didn't feel personal to the writers. That is an important thing these days. Well, it was always important, to be honest. Now, whenever I pitch something, I usually come up with a compelling sounding lie about how the thing I'm about to pitch, the story, the characters, the whatever, is something that's personal and deeply connected to my own experience, blah, 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 because I know that when people hear something that they think is true and rooted, they are more likely to pay a lot of money for it. Now, the story in the arena wasn't personal to them, but it's still a great idea, and it would still be a terrific show. So in retrospect, they should have just come up with a convincing and totally false backstory just to help the idea go from the pitch meeting to the very crucial business affairs calls your agent phase. But I told you that to tell you this, which is, I've sort of alluded to this for a while, but it's something that's going on in my life that may or may not eventually be a script. And if it does, I just want it to be on the record that I will not have to lie about it. Last autumn, I did a very odd thing for a man of my age. I went back to school, and not just any school either. I am officially enrolled in my first year of the Master of Divinity program at Princeton Theological Seminary. I mean, I have a backpack filled with heavy and expensive textbooks. I have reading assignments and discussion sections and lectures where I take notes, which is a thing I have not done since 1987. I have a paper due next week. These are odd things for a man of my age to have on his to-do list. And, before I go any further, I'd like to announce publicly that I scored a 100% on my first New Testament Greek quiz, though in full disclosure, it was suggested by the professor that I work a little harder on my penmanship, which is something I heard from my teachers during the Jimmy Carter administration. But in my defense, it was the first quiz I had taken in 40 years. So as far as I'm concerned, the professor is lucky that I didn't hire an assistant to take it for me. That has been my usual system for getting things done for the past few decades, barking at assistants, managing a writing staff, wrangling with studio and network executives, lying about where my ideas come from. And the change has been a little disorienting, to be honest. Princeton Theological Seminary, it may not surprise you to know, is very different from the writer's room on a typical television comedy. In the first place, you don't hear a lot of profanity here. Students and professors are polite and purposeful. Discussions are thoughtful and almost always informed by deep scholarship, and no one erupts into a rageful cascade of verbal filth just because, say, the assistant brought the wrong kind of turkey wrap. When someone offers a thought in class, the rest of us listen closely and patiently instead of shouting, "Shut up, that won't work, we need something better," in an exasperated tone of voice. Also, here, when you make an observation about, Deuteronomy 11:18, you don't need to wrap it up with a joke. In fact, people will think you're weird if you do. Just, trust me on that. I am among the oldest students here. Everybody's too polite to actually make a a physical count. And when the subject of my age comes up, it's almost always done with real curiosity. I'd love to know more about the path that brought you here, a young student asked me yesterday. In show business, that person would have already searched my IMDb page, done some mental arithmetic, and decided that I am old and in the way and should move aside for someone new. In Hollywood, I am a seasoned showrunner who needs to stop taking up space. Here, I am a repository of valuable life experience. And if I'm being completely honest, I have to admit that both interpretations are essentially correct. I just, prefer the second one. And there's also awkwardness with the professors. I mean, most of them, I'm sure, appear impossibly old to my classmates. I mean, I remember when I was in college how ancient and wise my professors seemed. They had done things and lived lives. But my professors now, they're mostly in their early 40s, probably the same age as my professors were back when I was in school. And that makes them seem, really young to me. And they look at me with the same deferential curiosity as my classmates. So in many ways, I am Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School, except, more chill, I guess. Now, Princeton Theological Seminary is a place where people of all backgrounds and faith traditions come to study and learn and contend with each other in a respectful and generous atmosphere. And Hollywood is none of those things ever at any time. About the only thing we have in common is that everybody here seems to walk around with a bottle of water. And we did that too at Warner Brothers, which was just a more expensive brand. But I am really happy that I came. I mean, I'll be here for a few years getting my degree, but I haven't given up on Hollywood just yet, mostly because I can't afford to. After many years in show business, I've become addicted to nice stuff. No amount of religious training can change that problem at this point. But that's fine too. This is a lovely timeout from the hustle and struggle of the entertainment industry, especially these days when the entertainment industry seems to be all about hustle and struggle. And life isn't really meant to be lived in a cloister anyway, or mine isn't. Eventually, I'll have to return to the nest of vipers in the 310 and 818 telephone area codes, but I hope when I do, I'll carry some of this gentle purpose with me. I'm going to be spending the next few years reading and thinking about the big questions in a place that has been nurturing those conversations since, 1820 or something. So there must be a way to take some of that essential human inquiry and put it on screen, right? Somehow. And that's kind of what I'm after. Plus, maybe make it funny, which could be a bigger challenge. I mean, at some point, if I'm diligent in my studies, I may become an ordained Episcopal priest and a TV writer and producer. And that will allow me to find out what happens when you pitch a comedy series wearing a priest's collar. I mean, I guess they could, still pass on the pitch, right? If they dare. But the collar will at least address the is this personal question, because if there's one thing I have learned here already, midway through my first year, it's that it is all personal. And that's it for this week. Next week, I will try to keep it secular. For The Ankler, this is Rob Long with Martini Shot.